Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Africa. Hello, world. Tell me how you're doing. I hope you had a fabulous weekend and that you're back rejuvenated and ready to take on the challenges of this week. Thank you for making time to learn. Thank you for investing this time to improve yourself. This session today is going to be speaking to all different types of communities that we look to serve on LinkedIn. Today, I'm going to be speaking to you if you're a young professional, if you're a student, if you're an alumni, or if you are a seasoned professional who's transitioning in the workplace. Today's session is really about helping you, our Africa community, access new economic opportunities. With that in mind, tell me where you're watching from, which country are you watching from, and if you don't mind, tell us what it is you do. Because this session, like I said, is all about you. So if we understand better which countries you're watching from and what it is that you're trying to achieve in your career, then it makes it easier for us to help you. So welcome to the session. The session, as I said today, is all about you. I've got two special guests and I'll be inviting them on shortly so that you can get to understand them as people, get to understand the experience they're bringing, get to understand why they're considered subject matter specialists. So if you've always had questions about how to ace interviews, if you've always had questions about how to negotiate a great package beyond just the money, if you've always wanted to know how to get into the minds of recruiting managers, well, today's session is all about you. But having said that, as much as it's all about you, here at LinkedIn, we try and reduce the network gap, which means giving other people access to the things we know and the people we know. So giving someone who's a great professional insights on how to build their career is part of what we call the +1 pledge, helping other people. So I'm asking you, if you're watching the stream right now, I'm asking you and I'm challenging you to tag another professional. Use the @sign, put the professional's name. They can join us midstream. And you know what? We're going to be recording this, so it will be available to watch later on. Get your headphones on and allow me, please, now to take some time to introduce my guests and, of course, our special guest speaker today. Welcome! Oh, wow. Welcome, my brother. Welcome. How you doing? Tshidi, I'm going to take you off mute. I see you're ready. I see you're psyched. I see you're pumped up.
I'm ready, man.
Maybe I could just sound you in with our theme song. It's time to shine, my brother. Welcome to you and anybody else watching from South Africa. Our community in South Africa, if you're recruiters, if you're hiring managers, this is one of your own. We've got Tshidi here. I'm putting up his handles. I'm putting up where else you can get a hold of him. But without further ado, let's talk to the man himself. Tshidi, welcome.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm so excited because after last week, I was like, no, we can't disappoint our friends. We have to do it right this time.
Yeah, last week,
work, you know?
sound challenge. So if you missed it, last week we had a bit of a technical challenge, but that's the way it is. A lot of changes are happening around us. We adapt, we re-strategize, and we attack it. My brother, how do we pronounce your name with grace and say it properly, your first and your last name? I know there's a feature on LinkedIn which you haven't started using.
No,
people.
I've got it, bro.
You got it?
Yeah, I'm sorted.
Excellent. So if you're looking up Tshidi's tag right now, there's his full name. Look up his profile. Give him a reason to connect with you. So my brother, help us pronounce your name beautifully as your mother intended.
Exactly. My name is Tshidi. It's a very simple and short name, Tshidi. So if you're ever looking for somebody to actually share ideas about what's happening, my top of the mornings, please don't miss that, because I try to share as much as I can with as many people as possible. So please, guys, tag a professional out there, tag somebody, tag a graduate. We had to move this around because there was an event last week. So we have to also make sure that it actually, coincides specifically just only for you guys to be able to do this. So yeah, man, it's Tshidi, and I'm already using that feature. So if you don't know about it, you can actually go edit your profile and tell people how best to pronounce your name. Just add that; it makes life a lot easier for a lot of people. Just add it, guys. It's a nice little volume. Yeah.
And it makes us global citizens because we're talking to over 690 million professionals, which is growing at a rate of every second. We're getting 3 new members. And not all of them live in your country. Not all of them speak your native language. So help people find you by putting in your name and also how it's best pronounced. Tshidi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, man. I'm looking forward to this.
Excellent. And I haven't only got you on the show today. I've got one more guest I'm bringing in so that we can make this a complete discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, drum roll, play that music. Let's get it going. Show me love there, Leon. This is the man who created this tune that we're hearing. This is the man. So if you don't like it, this is the man to complain to.
But if you do, I can make more.
Our theme song for It's Time to Shine. This is my colleague. We started our journey in LinkedIn together. He's got a passion for music, but I'm not going to steal his thunder. He's going to tell us himself who he is, what he does, and why he's on the show. Leon, welcome to the show. So good to have you.
Hello, Africa.
Yeah, we're a little bit biased. We say hello, Africa, and hello, world. Tell us how you're doing.
Hi, everyone. Super pleased to be here. My name is Leon Usbaumer, and I've been part of LinkedIn's talent acquisition team for the past 2 years, actually. 2 years on the 23rd of July, if I'm not wrong.
That's right. We're about to celebrate that birthday.
And happy to be here, share best practices, and hopefully help everyone on this journey on find the best place to work and organization to work for. So really looking forward to this chat today.
Excellent. And where are you originally from, if I may ask? Which country are you originally from?
Well, I have a bit of a history. So I was born in Brazil, but actually to Congolese parents. So my parents moved from Congo to Brazil about, I want to say, 60 years ago. And so I'm actually the first Brazilian born in my family. And then it's been 10 years since I decided to moved to Ireland and have been here ever since.
Excellent. Well, we got representation from South Africa. We got representation that's a little mixed. That's how it is. Welcome to the show. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time to have this discussion. As I said, what I'd love for us to do is to get straight into it in terms of helping people get access to jobs. In terms of the conversation we're having today, like we said, we want to talk to those of you who are in career transition, those of you who are just beginning your careers, and those of you who are looking to reinvent yourself and become a subject matter expert and start offering services in the world. So this session is all about you. This session, I encourage you to have a mindset that's a little bit different. I'm encouraging you to have a mindset that is all about you as a brand, you as a person. How do you position yourself? How do you show the unique story that you are? How do you show your values? How do you make sure that as you show those values, you're getting beyond the ATS, you're getting beyond the AI engine, you're meeting recruiters virtually, or meeting the hiring managers that have the jobs that are aligned to your career, your passion, and your goals and your aspirations. You're going to hear me say this many times today, that it's about you. So first, know what you want to achieve in your life, short term and long term. It's not about me standing on a soapbox and getting on with my little speech there, but it's about interviewing the guests that we have. Guys, I've put up Jay-Z. I've put up Jay-Z. A little untraditional, a little bit unconventional, but give me your first impression when you see this quote and how it resonates when you think about jobs in the work that you do. Let's start with you, Tshidi.
Yeah, man. I think when I see this quote, it basically talks about how best to reinvent yourself. It talks about what is your true identity, whether it's online and offline. And a lot of people tend to forget that your online persona normally sometimes identifies who you are, even outside of your online persona. So it's extremely important that the way people receive you online, it's exactly the same way they'll receive you on the streets. So that's what Jay-Z means when he says, "I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man." And I think for me, that's what I want you to remember, that we can't always distance ourselves from our online persona. So just be very careful how you want to brand yourself, whether it's on social media or whether it's actually in public, whatever you're doing. Just be careful, because sometimes you're carrying more than just your name onto those streets. You're carrying either your employer's name, you're carrying quite a lot of different people's names. So for me, when I see this quote, that's what it says to me, to say, be consistent in your persona, and make sure that you are the representation of what you say you are.
That's absolutely it. How we behave on all social media platforms beyond LinkedIn matters. With that, Leon, tell me, have you gone and Googled a candidate, a prospective candidate, before you actually meet with them? Do you do Bing searches for them to find out what kind of a person they are?
Yeah, so ideally as a recruiter, we always try to find as much information from the candidate that we can have as possible, because LinkedIn is working to be that one-stop shop for everything. Ideally, we initiate with LinkedIn, and sometimes the LinkedIn profile is so complete that we won't have to go through other sources to find information on the candidates. So that shows the importance of putting focus on your LinkedIn profile and make sure all the relevant information is there.
Excellent. So be mindful, own your brands, look after your brands, because they do look as recruiters at your profiles, Tshidi, so that people can really understand it. People can understand you well. What a morning. It's Monday morning. No better time but for a commercial break. But wanted you to help us understand what it is you do in your daytime job. So as people start thinking of the questions, as we start going deeper into this conversation, our audience can ask you about the financial sector, can ask you specific questions, and then we'll get on to Leon as well. So what do you do in your daytime job?
So in my daytime job, I think my job has sort of transitioned over the last couple of months. Like most talent acquisition specialists, we've seen a huge change in how we do things. So generally what I would either be doing is either focusing on making sure that the amazing team that we've got is actually finding the best candidates that are out there. And then because of changes that have happened in the last couple of months, I think part of what we're also trying to do is we're still doing quite a few interviews here and there. Some of them be with internal candidates, but everything is basically via this lovely digital platforms. And mainly, I think the reason why we ended up going that route is because, when the call from the president to say, guys, let's try and do as much social distancing as possible. Luckily,
Right.
where I work, we had already started working on flexible working conditions since last year. So it was a lot easier to transition and start really making sure that even when we can't meet them face to face, we're able to
Right.
still, interact with them via the different tools that are currently available. And I think we've been lucky that we've used literally so many different tools. I mean, there's been times where when we were not necessarily winning on other tools, where we went to use your WhatsApp tools to make sure that
Yeah.
we're able to reach out to anybody. So we haven't limited the tools that we've got, because we also
Right.
understand that candidates have got sometimes very limited data or very limited bandwidth to be able to connect with us. And we try to make sure that we meet you as a candidate where possible, where it actually suits you the most. So in the last couple of months, I think there's been quite a lot of interviews that I've been doing. There's been
Right.
a lot of conversations that we're having with line managers to help them sometimes transition from judging the culture by shaking your hand and saying hello, but by judging the culture by having the conversations with you and understanding what actually drives you as an individual. So there's been quite a nice transition. And I think COVID has forced us to be in the 21st century, to be honest. All of us, we're now forced to start embracing this technology thing. And we can't run away from it, to be honest.
That's it. We can't run away from it. And I love the fact that you talked about flexibility. Not everyone has access to the same applications. Not everyone has access to data bundles. Not everyone has access to Wi-Fi. And not everyone has access to a great video camera or lighting or sound, whatever other investments there are out there. So what we need to be doing as talent acquisition professionals is to be mindful of what it takes for our candidates to participate, what platforms it will be easier for them to communicate with us. So, for example, at the end of this session, we're going to be providing some learning tools that will be great for you to learn how to interview on Zoom, interview on Teams, interview on Blue Jeans, interview on Skype. All these tools that are now being used by recruiters to interact with us, we will be providing learning around it. With that, Leon, over to you. What's your daytime job and what gets you up in the morning?
Good question. So here in LinkedIn, we say, as recruiters, we connect talent with opportunity, and that's what we do on our day-to-day basis.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the reason that I, decided to join the HR and recruitment side of things. It was pretty much to give candidates that opportunity to find that dream role, and also give companies the best talent that they can find in the market out there. So it's exactly that design. That is exactly what takes me out of bed in the morning. It's knowing that every day you're going to be speaking to different people, hearing their stories, which is something that I'm really passionate about, and I'm involved in storytelling in all sorts of ways in my life and career. So hear that story, understand what it is, and find the right match for that person. In this case, on LinkedIn. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
I love it. I love it. Giving people access to economic opportunities, helping people to find their dream jobs. That's not a small task. And I applaud all recruiters that are on the platform, all recruiters that are helping people find jobs. We commend the work that you do. It's powerful work. It's work that matters. It's work that we greatly appreciate. And in terms of appreciation, guys, help me give a special shout out and a welcome to people who are watching on stream right now. We've got Maputi watching from Johannesburg. We've got Jacqueline. We've got Sharon watching from Nairobi, Kenya. We've got Lisa, Rebi, Leobos, Wende, Timelo. We've got Tabitha, John, Mark, Luke. Everybody's watching. So, gentlemen, I hope you're ready because questions will soon be flying in.
Bring it home.
I love it. I love it. You're all psyched up. You're all psyched up. But just before we get into it, what is the one pro tip you would give people as we begin this journey in terms of managing this working remotely, applying for jobs remotely, working from home? What's your number one pro tip? Starting with you. Let's go to you, Tshidi. What's your pro tip number one?
So pro tip number one is it doesn't matter whether we're seeing you via your Skype.
Okay, it looks like our screen is
it frozen? Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. You're back.
I'm back.
Gremlins in the system. Sorry about that. Okay,
so the pro tip number one is it doesn't honestly matter whether we're seeing you via Skype, we're seeing you via Teams, we're seeing you via Zoom, we're seeing you via whichever tools that currently exist. Just always assume that the way we connect with you on these platforms is exactly the same way we'll connect with you if we were to meet you face to face. So pay the attention, like if we're talking, there's no need in you still playing with your phone on the side, because I think some of the people are like, yeah, but they can't see me. And then you put your phone on the side and your eyes keep on darting towards that phone. Like if you have something that you're watching, you have your presentation, put it on top of your laptop. Make sure that at least your eyes are always in contact with the people that you're talking to. That for me is one of the key things. The other thing that's also extremely important, number two, I know you said one, is find a quiet corner, hey? Like there is nothing priceless than just finding just a quiet little nice corner where
as you say, find a quiet.
Yeah.
Sorry. We've got network challenges here in Europe today. It's not Africa, it's in Europe. So Africa, let's continue. Please carry on, sir.
Yeah, so that's my corner. Quiet corner is everything, guys. I mean, it helps you focus, it helps you listen to the questions, it helps you run with every single thing that you want to hear, it helps you become one with the interviewers, and it helps you take away from the noise that's around. You don't have to see anything happening. So make sure that you find yourself a nice corner. Those are extremely important tips that I'll give anybody going out there.
Okay, then Leon, what would be your tips that you would give, especially during this time as people are working from home, as they start going down this journey of applying for jobs, of engaging with recruiters, and of course, engaging with hiring managers?
Yeah. So my pro tip, if you can call that a pro tip, but my advice would be to have a structure to the way that you are approaching this. So from structuring your day, because I'm conscious that working from home and potentially not having a job, it might be hard to have a structure to your day. What time you're gonna wake up? You're gonna start to do tasks. So have an overall structure to your day. Have an overall structure to how we're gonna approach applying for jobs, and we're probably gonna talk through this, in our conversations, and the questions are gonna be raised on that. But make sure that you are tracking what you're doing, and you have a structure to how you approach people, how you apply for jobs, how you network. It's much easier than to track what you've done, so you can look back and say, "Oh my God, I did all of this." And it's gonna be much easier as well to track your success and potentially change strategies if you need so.
I like that. Have a strategy, have a plan, track it, measure it, metrics. Who am I applying to? It's not a spray gun approach, folks. If you're watching, here's pro tip number one. It's not a spray gun approach. As much as we will follow many companies that we desire to work for, we need to have a tracking system in terms of who do I know in that company who can help me? How many people can give me informational interviews that will inform me more about that organization and the problems they're having, and then I can help them solve those particular problems. Folks, as I said, if you've got questions, ask. We're online. This is why we've got this session. It's all about you. With that, guys, Tshidi, what would be your predictions for the future of work? And then I'll share what LinkedIn is seeing. So what are your predictions about the future of work?
So my prediction is this is going to be the new normal, to be honest. I think a lot of people having a bit more flexibility to work just about anywhere in the world. I think that's going to be the new
Right.
normal. I don't see how, to be honest, we're going to go back to where we were. I think a lot of companies are going to start reducing the office space that they've been using in the last couple of years. I
Right.
see a lot more people, or a lot more companies trying to, consolidate all that space to ensure that people have got the flexibility to be able to literally complete the works regardless of where they are. And I think the beauty about it is because we've now tried it and tested it, and it's actually working.
Yeah.
It would have been very difficult a few months ago if you said, the future of work is going to be one where you now need to find a little corner where it's going to be your own office.
Right.
We've actually, in the last 4 or 5 months, we've trialed this, we've tested it, and we now know it's working. We now know for a fact that you can actually work from home and still deliver the same amount of work, if not more, than what you're actually doing. So the future of work is going to be very, very different. I think the technology is now going to lead the way, which is what should have happened a while ago. The fourth industrial revolution, it's here. I know we might not be ready mentally for it, but COVID has literally said, listen, you have to be on the fourth industrial revolution. And that's the beauty of the world that we're living in at the moment.
Definitely. The future is here. Leon, what is your predictions about the future of work before I unveil what LinkedIn has found from the data and the many interviews we've been doing with professionals who have either transitioned or are about to transition? What is your prediction about the future of work?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and potentially I would say I would not dare to make predictions now, because I think we are pretty much going through that change at the moment. And I was even reading an article this morning saying that the hype and the productivity of companies working from home is actually dipping a little bit, because that was being driven by everything that was happening and the potential fear of people losing their jobs. So I think we are pretty much on trial. For sure, 100%, it's going to be, in my view, a flexible approach where people that like to be in the office, they will have an office space. People that don't like to be in the office, they can work from home. And I see companies that are able to have that flexible approach and leave people be where they perform best. Are the ones that are probably gonna be ahead, obviously, when the role allows employees to do so. So future of work is flexible.
Future of work is flexible. We got our first question coming in already. So I'm going to give you this one since you are a special guest. So if you're not a good speaker during interviews, it makes it hard for you to present your best professional self. The question is, what's the best method of training or solution? What do you guys suggest?
So I think when you're not the best speaker, it brings in quite a few challenges for a lot of people. And I think that's where a lot of people don't then tend to dig into their capabilities that are not necessarily related to speaking. So you find that some of the people are best at explaining things via drawing. Some of the people are good at writing things down and explaining to you what they're trying to say. So for a lot of people, if that's your strength, use that to make sure that you connect with your audience. Because in most cases, you'll find that we've got a room like this because it's going to be either via Teams or whichever way. If you have a little whiteboard that you can always draw and explain to people to say, this is my thinking, it takes away the attention from being scared and facing those individuals. The second thing that you can also say, guys, that I can also say, which is also very important, is your friends are the best. They're the best practice ground. Your closest friends are your best practice ground. So in some cases, if you know there's an interview coming, call one of your friends and say, let's do an interview. You can even Google questions that you think these guys will ask you. Google those questions, send them to your friend and say, please ask me these questions, and see how best you can actually respond. Because the beauty about it is what happens is you get to be a bit more confident in how you answer each one of the complicated questions. And the other thing that I want people to remember is, guys, own your fear. You know, people tend
Yeah.
to be scared to tell you in the interview to say, listen, I'm nervous, I'm scared. Own it. You know,
Own it.
own it. Tell us, like, because, and the nice thing about that is you'll find that in most cases when people tell us in advance to say, listen, guys, I am really, really scared. As recruiters, our job is not to continue scaring you more. We will
True.
do everything in our power to make you feel comfortable. So in some cases, we'll talk about the fact that, you know, Liverpool unfortunately has won the league, and it
Oh
calms you down.
no.
You know,
No,
it's
I'm gonna
unfortunate.
mute
It's
you.
the
This
worst thing ever.
is my stream, bro. Come on.
You know, no, but listen,
Focus.
all I know is Manu has qualified. That's all I care about. Anybody else doesn't matter. You know, we've qualified. So the beauty about owning your fear is that it allows the people on the other side to connect with you on a different level. And we will make sure that we do everything in our power to connect with you. And sometimes you'll find that when you've said, guys, I'm not very good at explaining myself, in some cases, even the business will say to you, listen, do you have a portfolio of evidence of what you've done?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
they know
yeah.
that's how best you communicate. You don't necessarily
Mm.
communicate via the language. You communicate with a portfolio of what you've done. So we will ask you for a portfolio of evidence that you've put together. And the beauty
Right.
about that is it speaks volumes about your work. So half your work is done, and then you actually look like a rock star. So guys, own your fear. That's number one. That's one of the things
Own
that
your
you need
fear.
to do. Number two, use your friends as your minions in your practice individuals, and make sure that you actually, you know, use them to help you with prepare for the interviews. And number three, guys, which is also very important, if you're not very good with explaining certain things, tell your panel which other mechanisms you've got that you're able to use to explain how good you are. And then they
Excellent.
will always accept that. They'll accept it if you say, guys, I'm good at drawing. I can draw with you my solution that I'm thinking. I can draw the solution
Right.
and give it to you. They will give you that opportunity. So be remember that the recruiters on the other side are human beings, same as line managers, and they always want the best people to actually assist them with everything that they're doing. So that's my tip to anybody that's got that fear.
I love it. Love it. Very, very, very comprehensive in terms of the things that you need to do, the things that you need to own, and the things that you can do to demonstrate your capabilities. Oftentimes, I talk about the hashtag do work. Bring that credibility work with you. Create a humble brag file, which
Yes.
talks about the things you've achieved, the things you're good at. And like you said, reach out to friends, reach out to other professionals to test how you respond to that. But on LinkedIn, there actually is a way for you to test yourself in preparing for interviews. Leon, what have you seen and what's useful?
Yeah, I first of all, I love everything that you said there, especially now that we are working in this virtual world, the ability to, as you said, we are humans as recruiters, so talk to your recruiters, talk about your fears, own it, and you might come up together with a solution saying, listen, we are doing Zoom calls, maybe you can have a PowerPoint presentation ready. I'm gonna let the panel know about that, and you can present it on the day. So absolutely love the tips that you said. And to the folk that asked that question there, first thing that I would say to him is fair play. You are on the right path, because what is lacking to a lot of people in today's world is self-awareness. And without being self-aware, you cannot improve. So you're already making a statement. I might not be as good in speaking about myself. Great, that's a skill. It's a skill that you can train. There are a lot of courses on it. You can practice this, as you said. So
Yeah.
you are definitely 100% on the right track. Don't let that hold you down, hold you back, or hold you down. But
Right.
I just want to make you aware that you are on the right path. You acknowledge it, and now it's just about to practice and improve it.
Perfect. Gentlemen, we're receiving questions. I know we have a flow that we had prepared for this, but we're receiving questions, and it's all about our online audience. So Manele says, yeah, firstly, I'd like to thank you for this webinar. No, we thank you for your time.
Yep.
So thank you for attending. My question is around the use of artificial intelligence in the recruitment process. Doesn't this perpetuate unfair bias for candidates who don't have access to technology and the inside information of what organizations use. Let's take it the other way around now. What do you think, gentlemen? That's the question.
I think the beauty of AI is that it takes away quite a lot of the preconceived biases that we live with. You'll find that in most cases, sometimes people used to judge you on how you dressed. People used to judge you on the way you comb your hair. People used to judge you on the type of glasses you've got. Like, people have always judged you for so many different things, and it's been such an unfortunate thing. Whereas when it comes to AI in recruitment, I think it's still evolving. There's some companies that have managed to use it quite well, and they're doing a great job with being able to identify candidates, because with AI, it doesn't know your name. It doesn't make assumptions about saying, okay, so this is a Stewart, so Stewart comes from this country. It's got no preconceived ideas of who you are. All it measures the content that you provided. And when it comes to, because a lot of these AI tools, you'll find that it's a pre-recorded video where they actually have a session like this, and there's a specific questions that they ask, and they check the way you respond, how you respond to some of these questions, and then from there they measure you based on that. Now that is based on purely content. It's got nothing to do with whether you have your head covered. It literally is based on the content that you share with the AI tool. So I think it doesn't necessarily perpetuate that. It's come a long way from where it is right now.
Right.
But I do think there's still a few more months or a few more years for it to complete the testing that a lot of companies are trying to do, for us to be able to say it is unbiased completely. Remember also AI, the question of AI is that it's programmed by individuals. If there's biasness in the programming of that AI, even the results of that program are always going to be biased. So it depends on what you're testing yourself. So if I come in and I test the nervousness of a candidate, I program that AI tool and I teach it to read for that. But if I want to say, I want to check the content of this particular question that I want to throw at the individual, and it actually lands what is a good answer based on that, you will then get the best results out of that. So it depends on how well it's been programmed and how much it can stand the test of time. If, for example, you were to go through the same test and you put it through everybody that's been employed in that company, and it still hires them, then you can say maybe this AI tool is actually brilliant. But if it's one of those things where even your top performers is saying those top performers are bad performers, then maybe we need to start thinking about the AI tool and saying, is it really doing what it's supposed to do? It's brilliant in the sense that it takes away from a lot of cultural and a lot of especially cultural biases that we all live with. There's these things that say, you come from this tribe, I don't like people from that tribe. Or you come from I don't like. So those biases always play in people's minds. And unfortunately, hiring managers, recruiters, we're all not immune to that. So that's why I'm saying AI it's a step in the right direction. It's not there yet, but we get in there. I think it'll eliminate quite a few things that you're worried about.
Definitely. And the other thing is, now that you know that, you're smart, right? So you can go in the back end, look at the jobs that companies are posting, what language are they using, have the same language built into your profile, into your resume, built into your digital profile, as long as it's authentically you. So that if they are using those tools, chances are how they describe that job is how they're going to be testing for that job. Leon, in Africa, we typically say, and it's unfortunate that when someone comes for an interview, they say, who sent you? And that determines how well you do. But with AI, we're putting an end to it because it's time to shine. Tell me, how is AI helping us find people at LinkedIn, for example?
Good question. So you'll be surprised, actually, not only LinkedIn, but on the market, how many companies are still relying on recruiters to go to that application process. And some of you could be aware of companies that tried to implement AI, but it failed.
Yeah.
Specifically because they were biased, because they are built by people and they learn a lot of times from people that are already in the company. So how are you supposed to teach an AI to look for diverse and different talent if you are looking inside? How are you going to look it differently? But something that is advancing really on the recruitment industry, I think, is automation rather than AI, which is more straightforward in regards to, does that person have the 5 years of experience, yes or no? And because of that, they will be able to move forward or not in the recruitment process. So for sure, automation is advancing. AI, I see is a tool that is still being trialed. And my understanding is that not very successful by the companies out there. So there is a lot to learn and a lot to be tried, especially because of that bias that tools in the past have shown. So I'm all up for automation because it makes the work of the recruiter a little lighter, and all those repetitive tasks hopefully will be dying soon. And then that gives us the ability of have that personal conversation with the candidate and dedicate more time to talk to candidates and partner with our hiring manager, because we don't have to do those tasks. AI, we are still to get to a level where we can really rely on it.
Superb. So it's not perfect. It's something that's learning. It's something that's improving, but it is something that removes bias. And it is something that accelerates the process. And if you're a job seeker right now, obviously your concern is to find a new way to, a new job or new economic opportunity. So you are looking for speed. So as much as the organizations are looking to bring you, you're looking to get employed a lot faster. So going back to, of course, the future of work, and I want us to speed up a little bit. Here's what LinkedIn has found. So companies are going to be making substantial investments in the remote work. We're all widely agreed around that. There's going to be a widespread adoption of distributed work. Now, that obviously is going to impact how we measure performance. And Sharon has got a question here asking very quickly, how do we measure performance when working from home since KPIs require teamwork? Give me your quick answer to this one so we can focus on moving on to other questions that help our people find jobs. Tshidi.
Awesome. This one is gonna be very quick. I think one of the things that we need to remember, Sharon, is that we're now at that stage where, as companies, we're starting to now look at this new term called being agile. And being agile is about being able to say, how quickly can you adapt to the changes that are coming? And I've seen quotes before that says adapt or die. It's a very harsh quote, but it's actually a reality when it comes to that. So when it comes to KPIs, your measurement of KPIs should be based on things that can be easily measured. So in instances where, for example, you're working from home, there's specific outputs that you and your line managers can actually rework on to say, these are some of the outputs that currently exist within our business, and this is what we expect a great outcome to be. Once you've identified what those outputs are, your collaboration, because the other question that you're asking there is to say, since a lot of it sometimes depends on teamwork and collaboration, your collaboration does not necessarily need you to be physically next to somebody. Your ability to be able to connect via Teams, your ability to be able to connect via Microsoft Skype, your ability to connect with any other means that exist can still be measured as a means of actually collaboration. So don't limit it to the physicalness of being there, because unfortunately the world we are in right now doesn't allow that physical moment. But what it allows you to now do is to still be able to say, I'm still able to connect with my colleagues via the tools that the company has provided, whether it's your Outlook, whichever way. So those are some of the key things that I think you should now start looking at when it comes to conversations with your line manager.
Superb, superb. We want to move on with this. Other predictions that have come in terms of the future of work are more and more companies will use off-site childcare to underwrite childcare expenses as people want to spend more times with their families, especially during the time we're going through. And of course, the workplace design is going to get a massive overhaul. Leon, anything to say around that, especially from the mindset, of course, of a talent acquisition professional? What do you have to say about the workplace design and, of course, childcare as a benefit?
There are some companies globally that offer childcare, and I have a couple of colleagues actually in my team that are, parents, and one of the HR CHRO for this company spoke on Talent Connect, which is a event organized by LinkedIn. And when they said that they had childcare, everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is great!" So I think every benefit that the company can offer to make the employee life a bit lighter and give them the ability to focus in the work that they are doing is great. It speaks a lot about the company culture and etc. So childcare benefits for sure. If you can do it as a company, bring it on. And then in regards to workplace design, 100% that's going to change. If you don't need as many people in the office as you used to need in the past, there has to be a redesign for what your office is going to look like and how it's going to meet the purpose of serving your employees that are in that office. So 100% that's gonna change.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I've just put up the most in-demand jobs using LinkedIn data. Currently, these are the jobs that people are being looked for to come and fulfill. These are jobs that you would not traditionally have seen at the top of the list, but this is data based on people being on LinkedIn advertising jobs. With that in mind, we have a question which says, how can I self-market to boost workplace visibility? We're talking back to the humble brag. So, Tshidi, what do you think? What do we need to do as a candidate to make sure we self-market and that we are seen for these jobs that are in demand right now?
Yeah. I think one of the best things you should always make sure that you do, guys, is your LinkedIn profile has become one of the best tools to self-market. It's been one of the tools that even a lot of recruiters actually use. There's been a huge change from just only receiving a CV the way it is. A lot more people spend more time on their LinkedIn profiles than they spend on their CVs. You'll find that their LinkedIn profiles are a lot more updated. So what's always important is a few things. Number one is don't copy the job requirements or your job spec and paste it into your LinkedIn as your current job. Based on your job spec, look at what you currently are doing, and then only pick 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 of those bullet points and add them onto your LinkedIn so that people are aware of what you actually are capable of. Secondly, make sure that you have a picture. Guys, it's human nature. One of the things that people are struggling with right now, that's why mental health is such a key thing, is that people are struggling to speak to people wearing masks because, in most cases, you're so used to seeing somebody smile or not smiling. And if you don't have a picture, that's the same as you literally speaking to somebody who has decided that they're going to be the egg in whatever platform that you might be using. So please make sure that you have a picture. The picture doesn't have to be a full body. Please don't do full body pictures because then we don't see your face. All we see is this long individual. Just crop it nicely. It's up to here. Like the way you guys are seeing us now, it's better than if you were to see me like a full body picture, because it also shows how friendly and easy it is to connect with you. So remember, in most cases, we also want to connect with you the same way that you want to connect with us. So make sure that number one, your updated LinkedIn is really ready for the world of work and people can actually look at what you've done. Secondly, if there are specific skills that you think the job that you're looking for, if you're a developer, whichever one, and they're looking for, let's say maybe a C# individual who has used Joomla or who've used all the other different technologies that currently exist out there, make sure that you highlight them on your skills. because when I search for you on LinkedIn, your profile is more likely to pop up. So that's how you actually brag about your brand without necessarily having to brag about your brand. Make sure that the way I see you on LinkedIn is enough information for me to be able to say, I want to speak to this guy. But if you literally give me one line and just your title, and sometimes people even put titles that I don't even understand. Like some of these titles, people are unicorn wranglers. Fantastic, you're a unicorn wrangler. But what does it mean to me as a recruiter? I don't understand. Maybe unicorn wrangling is another hobby that I didn't know about. You might have found those unicorns. So use titles and labels that are understood in the market that you're trying to play in, especially if you're on the market. You know, don't go use things that we don't understand, because we are simpletons. We like simple things. So make it simple for me to understand it.
I love it. Make it simple for me to understand. Leon, so from your side, when people start thinking about changing jobs, we did some research, and these are some of the obstacles people see. The top 3, which I want us to talk about, is not knowing enough about what it's really like to work for a company, or applying for a company and not hearing back, or receiving inconsistent, unclear communication during the recruiting process. Pick one of those, Leon. Which one is the one you're guilty of, as I bring you full screen?
Oh my God. You didn't make me aware of this one. So I want to say, in regards to, and I've been, because I work for LinkedIn, I also have the pleasure to work with job seekers that go through a job seeking program here in Ireland. And one of the part of my presentation is to talk about why you could not hear, maybe you won't hear from the company that you applied for. So why you are, or you will be rejected for that role, unfortunately. And there are a lot of reasons why the company won't reach out back to you when you apply for a job. Right? It could be because of the amount of applications that they received. So it's a high volume role, and sometimes they get 100, 200 applications. And by the time they apply for their role, for example, the recruiter already went through 100 applications, okay? And then you might not hear back because he or she is not being active on that role. It could be that, you know, something changed in the company and they don't need to hire for that role anymore. And therefore they won't be giving answer or reaching out back to you because of that, or it is because you apply for a role that you are not a fit for. So you didn't take the time to look through the job description, to tailor your CV. You didn't put enough effort on it, and that shows on your application. And then the application comes in, and the recruiter can look at it and see that, you know, that person is putting an application forward for the sake of putting an application forward. So those are just 3 of the reasons why you won't hear back from a recruiter in the company. Now, said that, here at LinkedIn, because we are in a special situation where we are speaking to candidates, but we are also speaking to people that use the platform. So we see them as our customers, and we have that as part of our culture, users, members first. So as much as we can, we always try to help the candidates on that journey on finding the right role, give them feedback on how did they went, how did they go during the recruiter phone screen process, the interview process, and give them the tools and the feedback needed for them to potentially come back and apply for a role in LinkedIn again and be better candidates. Or if they are applying for other companies as well, they know what needs to be improved in regards to their interviewing skills or in regards to their application, and etc.
Love it. Love it. Lots of wisdom, lots of advice being given. Of course, like I said, ask questions. This show is about you. We have prepared materials, but we want to use it to answer questions. So it's an interactive session. Tag a fellow professional. Each one, teach one. It's all about helping others learn from what you have learned from. And again, I'm going to be putting up the comments and the questions on the stream. We've got a question here from Karagu. Thank you very much for watching. And your question is, great, informative webinar. So I think show us some digital love. If you're watching this, If you're watching it from a mobile device, LinkedIn gives you the opportunity to show reactions. So press the heart, press the clapping, press the little insightfulness buttons. That's how we interact on this digital platform. So next thing is, the question is, international students are faced with unique struggle of requiring a workplace that offers sponsorship. What advice can you give to help international students get ahead on this journey? Gentlemen, what do you have to say to Karagu?
Yeah. Karagu, thanks a lot for the question. That one is a very difficult one, I think, because in most cases, each country has got their own quota as to which people they would like to hire. Or sometimes there's a requirement from a transformation point of view from that country to say, we can only hire this many non-citizens, or we need to actually hire the following. So there's a few things that you might need to do as an international student that's looking at hopefully being employed locally. Number one is get as much experience, and trust me, this is the easiest part. While you're still studying, for a lot of students, you are able to still work. I think it's 20 hours a week while you're still studying. Your visa in most countries allows you to work 20 hours a week so that you can at least build on some of the experience. Try and get as much experience as you can while you're still studying in that particular country, because your experience is what then makes you stand above the rest. Secondly, make sure that from a qualification and a studying point of view, you actually choose the right. So choose a qualification that's going to allow you to be able to say, this is considered to be what they call a scarce skill. If, for example, some of us, we have done a Bachelor of Arts, it's a fantastic degree, because that's why I can speak like this, because I did my Bachelor of Arts. Now, you'll find that if it was now trying to look for those opportunities, it's going to be a lot more difficult. For some of the international students, identify also a company that's got an office outside of your country of study. So, for example, if let's say you are in Zimbabwe or you're from Zimbabwe studying in South Africa, find a company that's also got an office in Zimbabwe. Because then what you can then do is you can actually get placement in your home country, and then they do a company transfer for you to come and be able to still work in your foreign country that you might have studied in. So you'll find that it's another way of actually making sure that you have the opportunity from the companies that already have other offices in another country. Because also what's even easier is that you'll find that some companies might need a local in the office, in the international office. They might need somebody who understands the local market, that can speak about the local market and explain the local market. If you are able to start identifying those companies and saying, for example, LinkedIn has got an office in Ireland, but they also have an office in Germany, and they have an office in this place and that place. How about if I actually try and find if I can get an opportunity at LinkedIn in Ireland, but still ask them to see if they can place me in the local company that's in that country that I'm in, whether it's Germany or whichever one. That way, then the sponsorship for your visa is not the same as if you were to try and apply directly as an individual that's saying, I'm applying for a job from scratch and a visa from scratch. And some companies definitely are willing as well. You can search them online. Some companies are willing to do the sponsorship. The only difficulty about the sponsorship, though, is that in some cases you'll find that the sponsorship, the company needs to prove above and beyond that they've looked at all the other local citizens before they actually considered you. And that becomes a very expensive exercise because they need to advertise in local newspapers, all these other things.
Okay, thank you. We've got a question here from Eli. Thank you for that answer. It was quite comprehensive. We got a question from Eli here who's watching and saying, in most requirements, people are asking for work experience. I'm a recent graduate. How do I demonstrate it? Do projects actually count as experience?
Everything works. I don't know if Leon wants to take that one.
Nice, simple answer. Everything works.
Everything works, my brother, because the reality is, as recruiters, we just want to know that you are able to deal with other people. You know, in some cases, you could have done a project at a church. You could have done a project in any other environment. Your ability to be able to connect and work with other people is everything to us. So don't limit yourself by saying, but I only have this little job. It's not that important. It's extremely, everything is important, especially as a graduate.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Everything is important. Leon, you wanted to add something to that?
Yeah, what I would say also is, LinkedIn is not only for recruiters use LinkedIn to find candidates, but as candidates ourselves, I can use LinkedIn to get some inspiration of other people that are in roles that you are, in companies that you are, people that came from your country and are working abroad. And especially during the times that we are living now, people are more willing to answer that request for advice that you might want to send on LinkedIn, and understand what was the journey like to get in that role. What did they do? Can they connect you with someone locally that will help you to get that job? Or can they let you know what steps they took and what kind of experience they went through to be able to land that job? Because we were all, or some of us were graduated as well and didn't have experience. So if someone
Right.
comes to me to understand, hey, Leon, I, for example, I did law back in Brazil, went to Ireland to work in the customer service retail industry, actually restaurants and etc., until I found out that I wanted to work in HR. So I was, a little bit older than the average. I didn't have any experience in HR, and still I was able to break through the industry and ended up in a company like LinkedIn, and would be more than happy, to share my journey and what I did. So people that did similar things, for sure will be willing to share that with you if you ask. Some of them hopefully will.
As I said, just as a reminder, if you're joining us now, this session today is all about you. We're speaking to you as alumni, we're speaking to you as students, we're speaking to you as recent graduates, we're speaking to you as job seekers, we're speaking to you as recruiters, hiring managers, and trying to share the best practices that we have observed in working with candidates or working with hiring managers. This session is about you. Ask questions, folks. It's about empowering you and helping you build a credible career strategy, helping you navigate some of those questions you're being asked on a regular basis. So if you do have questions, I'm encouraging you, get onto the stream, type in that question. My subject matter experts are ready. We've covered questions around, of course, AI, but I see it's still coming up. We've got a question here from Pamela, who says, as much as AI is eliminating bias, we applaud it for that. Is it not eliminating the humanity in HR? Gentlemen.
Pamela, I'm going to try and answer this quickly as well. I think as we were saying earlier, the beauty about AI is that there's certain things that it does that that only it can do, and there's certain things that HR individuals can do. And as I was saying as well, what is also very important is that AI is still a long way off. We're not yet completely, companies are not yet fully utilizing AI. There's still human intervention. And also one of the things that we also mentioned in the conversation earlier was to say, AI is biased based on how it's been programmed. So it doesn't matter. We could eliminate all the different things. We could say, we still want to bring humanity into the AI. What it does, and what I liked from what Leon said earlier, was that automation combined with AI is fantastic, because in some cases you'll find that you receive 1,000 applications. As a recruiter, you've got about maybe 35 vacancies that you're working on. Imagine 1,000 applications for all those 35. That is a lot to actually try and work through and try and see, because you're looking at 35,000 applications that you need to screen through. What AI can be able to do is that there are people that apply just for the sake of applying. And I know in some cases they say that applying for jobs is a full-time job. It doesn't serve you well to apply for a job that is 20 years ahead of what you're looking for, just for the sake of applying for it. So what AI will not do is that it's never going to take humanity out of HR, because regardless of how we use AI, as HR professionals and as talent acquisitions, we will always have that human interaction. Even post the screening that it might be doing, we'll always have that interaction with you as an individual. So the humanity part is not lost in anything that we do in HR. In some cases, it just assists us to reduce from 1,000 or 2,000 applications to about maybe 300 for us to be able to pay a lot more attention to those 300. So we will never use AI to replace what we do. Maybe it could happen in the next 5 years, we never know. But also at the same time, we try not to remove that human interaction that's always going to be there, because that's what we love doing. We connect, and that's why we love seeing a picture on your LinkedIn profile, to connect.
I don't know if Leon can top that. I don't even know how to end off such powerful, clear, crisp advice and telling you not to have fear. We will continue to transform. Technology will continue to change things, but the human element, the emotion, the nuances, those will remain human for now. So if they are remaining human, then how are we as talent professionals in tune with those soft skills, being aware of situations, being aware of candidates, and then how are we, as of course candidates, are transitioning and working with this new tech? Leon, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think just one thing, that a same company can have different approaches in regards to AI, and maybe, put the AI or automation to work on the high volume type of application roles, and then let the recruiter work on the roles that need a bit more skill and that real human interaction. And then again, I like that you said for now it's not replacing human interactions, because we never know what the future holds. But thinking about now, I see as the recruitment process and the HR process as still being very, very human, and there's a very human element to it today.
Gentlemen, I have one for you here coming from Jacqueline, who's watching. Jackie, thank you so much for watching. It says here, rejection generic emails are extremely hurtful to a company's brand and culture. This is because a rejected candidate is the company's best, greatest brand ambassador. How the recruiter handles this feedback process is a representation of how the company's culture is, especially now that everything is moving into becoming digital. What is your take on going a step further on making it more prerogative for the recruiter to give professional, personalized feedback to the rejected candidate? Wow, that's a loaded one, Jackie. All right. I see Tshidi warming up for it. He's ready. Take it away, man. You've got this.
Yeah, listen, I knew Jacqueline was going to throw in one of those questions that it's like, oof, okay. I think so. There's a few elements to automated emails and automated rejections. Right. Number one is its capacity. And I know we sometimes don't want to think the word capacity from a recruitment point of view, but as a recruiter, capacity is very key. So you'll find that some recruiters are working with, as I mentioned earlier, between 35 and 40, 45 vacancies. If you're working on 40, 45 vacancies and you've received, let's say, let me not go to 1,000, because in some cases we get about 300, 600, applications. So even if you get about 500 applications, that's about 15,000 applicants that have already gone through that. Wow. You have 1 month, you have 24 hours to live, you've got an 8-hour day, you're still part of interviews in the same way. So you still have to sit in those interviews and interview the candidates that have made it past the screening process. So it is very difficult to then have a personalized email address or personalized message being sent to every candidate, especially at that stage. That's just the reality of the world that we live in, is right. That it is very, very difficult because of the volume of the work that we deal with from a recruitment point of view. Secondly, what's also very difficult is that if, for example, you see that there's been people that I have called personally, where I'll advertise a head of investments, for example.
Right.
And then a graduate then applies. There are some graduates that I've picked up the phone and I've called them and I said, listen, it doesn't help your application process because ATS systems can actually count how many roles you've applied for that you don't necessarily qualify for.
Yeah.
So, and there are people that, for example, I'm working on 5 roles and I've seen the same individual that I know does not even have half the qualifications that these 5 roles are looking for. It doesn't help me as a recruiter to be able to even have enough time to give that personalized attention to the people that have applied that could closely qualify to the role.
Okay.
So capacity is the reality of where we're working, is that it becomes impossible to honestly give that personalized feedback. The third thing, which is maybe very unique to whether it's South Africa or it's unique to other countries, that the feedback that you give, in some cases, you need to be very careful in how you give it, because that feedback could actually land you into very more difficult conversations a bit later. Because people could actually say, based on the feedback that you've given me, you've discriminated against me based on 1, 2, 3. But yet it was actually personalized feedback about how the person presented themselves. So there's a juggle that recruiters have to go through, and it's a very difficult juggle based on legislation, based on how you communicate that information. So it's not as straightforward as we would like it to be.
Right.
Capacity becomes the ruler of all reasons why, in most cases, you'll find that it's easier to screen everybody and then click do not qualify, so that the system can send those people emails to say, unfortunately, you don't qualify for this. It is not because they don't like you guys. It is just, unfortunately, time. Wabana, this thing. It's tough, man. It's tough.
Leon, as a recruiter, you look up people's profiles all the time. Does it necessarily mean you have a job for them? Does it mean you have an opportunity for them?
No, not all the time. The recruiter can be flicking through LinkedIn and looking through people's profiles because they are looking for someone to match to the role that they are working with. And just to add to what you said there, I think as recruiters we can look into it and see what kind of things we can control, right? And one of the things that I try to do with some of my roles that get a lot of applications is to manage the amount of applications that I get for that role. So you can have a data-driven approach and understand, usually for that role, when I get up to 50 applications in general, I will get a good enough pool of candidates that I can work with, and don't let your roles open for weeks or months, because you'll be getting the extra applications that are going to cause frustration to the candidates that are not going to potentially hear from you. So as a recruiter, what I would say is, manage your rack and your roles tight, and make sure that you get enough applications to be able to work on it. But don't let your roles open forever, because as mentioned by, I forgot her name, that potentially going to hurt your brand and your company's reputation.
Perfect, gentlemen. We've got 30 minutes left. It's been a good show so far. Thank you very much for your tips. I want us to speed it along. We've got a number of questions coming through the stream. So here's another question as I put up in the background how you build a profile. The question comes from Mugoe, who says, what tips would you give someone who's looking to make a career change? How can I stand out to recruiters when transitioning into a totally different field, when I have years of experience in another field? I want you guys to give context to this answer to Mugoe, particularly using the LinkedIn profile. Tshidi, I'll give you just these 4 areas here: profile picture, headline, summary, and media. Yeah. How do you use these to transition into a new career?
Yeah, so I think they're fantastic because they cover quite a bit of what we're looking for. So number 1, profile picture is the easiest way to connect with anybody that's looking at your profile. That's extremely important. And then the headlines, I've had so many different views about your headline and what it means. And I do know it's very tricky when it comes to headlines for a lot of people to write the fact that they're looking at transitioning, because that headline, it gives you a lot more space for you to write whatever information that you actually are looking at. In some cases, you could put your current title for that. But the summary is where you're now going to nail it, because the summary is where you now speak about, the different areas that you need to transition into. And the nice thing about LinkedIn is that when you search, whether you're doing Boolean search or whatever, even information that's been put on your summary, it allows us as recruiters to be able to read that and see that information. And then from there, the media part is where, for example, for somebody that's looking at transitioning, I'm assuming that you're already in your spare time playing around with some of those things that you're talking about. You're playing around, and if you're saying you're a developer, you've got something that you can share there to show that you actually want to go into the development space. So those are some of the 4 main key things that you can use on your LinkedIn just upfront to make sure that people are able to see what you're capable of and what you want to do. There's the last thing that I'd like to say for people that want to transition is that always consider 2 things. Number one, consider the current company that you are in. It is a lot easier to transition into a new job in your current company than it is to transition into a new job in a new company. The reason why it's easier in your current company is because they already know your track record. They know what you're capable of. They know what you've been doing. They know your value as an individual. So try and transition from that, because then it allows you to be able to do that. And then lastly, the second part is sometimes it's about studying. If you're going to transition, LinkedIn Learning, for example, has got so many different tools or so many different courses that you can do them. Don't say I want to become, like, let's say you've been a project manager and now all of a sudden you want to become a developer, and you come to speak to a recruiter and you say to them, listen, I've been a project manager for the past 10 years, but I now want to become a developer, and then the first thing I ask you is to say, oh, so what languages can you already develop in? The idea is take the opportunity to go learn. There's so many different ways of learning new courses online. Take that opportunity, learn a new skill that you want to get into, so that when I speak to you, you're like, oh, no, listen, I even did a certification in .NET development, or I've done a Java development, or I've done this. Show that the transition that you're going to, you are even studying for it in your own spare time. Because when you're moving to a transition, you're moving to a passion. So you can't move to a passion that you're not playing around with over weekends.
Love it. Very, very good tips there. Leon, for you, if someone is transitioning into a new career and you had to give them help and you only had the following options in terms of their experience, the work examples, and their education, how does this person get to show this even though they have more experience in a different field? Question from
Good question. So around experience, right? I actually gonna use my example here, and because though I'm working with recruitment, I have a flair or a passion more for the recruitment, marketing, and employer branding side of things, and then the actual recruitment per se. So what I am doing, I am getting involved with the team responsible to run campaigns within the team, and as the example shared before, looking for opportunities within the company and within the team for me to acquire that skill that potentially I'm gonna be able to share when the opportunity and if the opportunity arises. So looking for that opportunity internally, and you can go onto my LinkedIn profile, and there is actually a section in my experience where I say what I call myself employer branding enthusiast. I say that the role is not official, but I'm able to lay it out all of the activities that I engaged with, specific to that potential future role that might arises within the team. So that's how you work your experiences. What were the other points as well that you shared, Stewart?
So we had the experience, we had the work examples, which is proof of what you've done, and lastly, your education and making sure you're connected to your alumni.
Exactly, 100%. So education, for example, for me to break into the HR world, what I did was I used to work for this restaurant here in Dublin. Okay, and I actually reached out to the HR manager at the time, and Fiona, she's probably not listening to this, but I actually reached out to her at the time and said, listen, this is the path that I would like to go in regards to my career, working with employee engagement, working with culture, a bit of HR. They did not have the role at the time, but they had the need for the role. So, make sure that you tell people what you want to do, what you want to engage with, let people know, and they will remember you when the opportunity comes. So the opportunity came, and the restaurant that I was working with on the front, I had the opportunity then to work in the HR admin team, looking after the culture, people and culture of that team. After that, once I was in, that was it for me. I was able to move then to a different SaaS company after 9 months, and then from that SaaS company, I was able then to break into LinkedIn, and that's where I am today. So it was a mix of letting people know what I wanted to do. Don't keep it to yourself, and then look for opportunities within your company to engage and acquire those skills.
Superb. I hope you got your answer there. Thank you very much for the question. I've got a question for you, and I've put up a graphic that should hopefully bring a smile on your faces as recruiters. Keep calm. I am the recruiter. And I put that up because we actually have a question that's related to interacting and asking questions of the recruiters once we've had our initial engagement. So this one comes from Kevin, and is saying, is it okay to connect on LinkedIn and send an email to someone in HR within a company you're targeting to join or have applied to? More like fact-finding mission. If it's okay, what can someone try and find out? Gentlemen, give me your 2-minute answers on that one. Tshidi, we'll start with you.
Yeah. 2-minute answer is, Kevin, it's okay under one condition, is please don't use those generic. There's a generic email that people use on LinkedIn. Will you please, it says something about, I found this job online. Can you please share with your hiring manager? It's literally like, I've seen it, I think probably maybe 100 times. The best thing that you can do is always make sure that you have a targeted and personalized message to the person that you're connecting with. You can't just, because in most cases you'll find that people send you that to say, I've seen this job online, please share the CV with your hiring manager. And I'm not even the one recruiting for that role. So unless I'm the one recruiting for it and the profile on the job says I'm the one recruiting, then sending that is very tricky, because you might find that in my world, we have about, I think, 48 recruiters within the business that I work with. Now, that's a lot of people. Now, you'll find that some of the people are working on the roles that I don't even know those roles were online. Then you've sent me this message that says, I've seen this, and it's very generic. Kevin, the best advice I can give anybody is that tailor your message. If you connect with that person on LinkedIn, make sure that it's the person that, check if that person is in that particular area, because you can search. If it's in wealth and investments and you see the person in the wealth and investment space, then that makes sense. There's an assumption that they know about that role. But do not send a generic message that is just, it seems like you're shooting and hoping for the best, and you probably send it to 50 other people. Make sure that it's targeted and it's straightforward, and you know exactly what you want to. And sometimes, before you even start telling them that you've seen a job, start with the line that says you've already applied for the job, because then it makes my job easier. Instead of me telling you, go and apply online, you've already done that. Then our conversation is going to be different. Your fact finding also should be very different. What exactly are you trying to find? Because if it's information that you can find online, as a recruiter, I'm thinking, gee, man, do that research online so that when we interview you, if you are actually the right candidate, you've done a bit of that research, you sound like you know exactly what you're talking about. Research. So before you connect and send that generic email, understand what that person plays in, what they do, before you send just a generic one.
I love it. Leon, if we had $1 for every single time, or a pound or a euro or a rand for every single time someone reaches out to you and says, I'm looking for a job, I was curious to find out what jobs you have at your company.
Yes. Yes.
We're on LinkedIn, folks. Do the research. Get to understand the person. Get to understand the role that's being hired for. Get to ask some questions about the culture. Get to ask questions about what problems you can help that organization solve for. So, Leon, anything else to add in terms of communication with candidates, especially in light of the question that Kevin had asked?
Yeah, so what I would say is actually, go one step back and start to communicate with people from the companies that you want to work for before you become a candidate. And it's going to come from a much better place. It's not going to look like that you are asking for a favor. And that's something that I actually did as well when I was looking to join LinkedIn, and was trying to network with people in the company, even though there were not roles there, just trying to understand what the culture was, potentially how the recruitment process was for them. And usually, people that recently joined the company that had the recruitment process fresh in their mind, and just trying to get that piece of advice. So if you have a list of companies that you want to work for, don't wait for the role to arise. Start to connecting with people from the company, right now.
Oh, superb. I love it. So we've got a question coming in here. As we said, the show is really about you. The question is, I'd like to know which digital skills and soft skills companies are looking for as the world of work is changing. I've got the facts up on the screen. I'll share them. But just from you, gentlemen, which digital skills and soft skills matter? Give me your 1 minute.
I think in recruitment, I'll say the ability to play around with data. Data is becoming one of the best things to ever have as a recruiter. So using Microsoft Excel to play around with the data that you might get, that's going to be very important. So I'd say from a digital point of view, the ability to be able to manipulate data, see what data is telling you, those are for me some of the key things that in most jobs you're going to need.
All right. So Leon, what did you say in terms of digital skills?
That's a good question. So I want to bring down to two skills that would help you navigate anything digital, or whatever skills needed in a company. Is actually a soft skill that has been topping up the ranks for skills needed in companies for the past couple of years, which is creativity. So your ability, creativity, and curiosity gives you that ability to navigate through different scenarios and being agile and flexible depending on what is needed. So a lot of the times when you are talking to candidates, you want to understand obviously the skill that they are bringing on the table, but how has their learning path been? How have they adapted to a situation where they needed to develop a new skill in the company because the requirements for the job change, and that potentially can be much more important than the actual skill that the person is bringing from today. Let's say we go to a pandemic situation. That question would be crazy to ask 6 months ago, but if you're going to a pandemic situation, you have to adapt to working from home from 1 week to another, using different tools. What would you do, or how have you gone through that situation, and what approach have you taken in regards to learning those new skills?
Superb, gentlemen. Thank you. We're going to have to speed it up. We're running out of time. So I wanted to go into some fun times as we start talking about, of course, some of the things that you've experienced when you're recruiting and interacting with candidates. I've got a couple of cartoons here that will help flesh out the story and, of course, answer some of the questions. So the first one we see here, I think it's quite comical in terms of why did you leave your last job? And he says, it's something my boss said, and said, what did he say? You're fired. So how do we message some of these tough messages as we transition and say, well, you know what, in my last job, they let me go? How have people done that best when you've interviewed them?
Sure. I think that one is tricky because not many people are that honest about being let go. I think a lot of people have found a very nice way of actually just saying, unfortunately, my values and the company's values were not aligned. And normally that just means, we had to let go of each other. So there's been very creative ways of saying that, because also, and luckily in South Africa, the whole thing about you're fired type of thing is not something that's easy to do. I think you need to prove beyond reasonable doubt that that individual had to actually go, and that you've given them all the tools to be able to complete the job that they were supposed to do. So the you are fired part is a lot more a year, 6 months process that you need to go through. But people have found very creative way of saying, listen, me and the company's values were not aligned. So unfortunately, I had to actually go recompose myself so that I at least know where I'm going from a journey point of view. And it just basically tells you that they just didn't align, and that's that. And you don't, as a recruiter, you don't try and push to say, well, you fired, because that's a very nice politically correct way of saying that you didn't work nicely in that company.
Leon, you're on the spot. How do you message positively your last transition?
Yeah, so I actually have a recent example where I was actually sourcing for a candidate on LinkedIn, and on my discovery call with him, he told me he was a great candidate, and he told me that he was fired on a negative way. And that's natural, because you've been fired. It's a negative and bad experience that you are going through, so it's natural for you to talk about that negatively. So but because he was a great candidate, I coached him to, it's okay to talk about a negative experience, but you have to share what you've done after that, not being negative, and that's it. So have you learned something? And have you taken any approach? What kind of things you think you could have done better to potentially not go through that situation? And then it's okay to say, I was fired, I was being let go because of this, but since then I've been working on this, and that, and I'm much more self-aware of my potential and things I can do. So share the negative experience. That's fine. You're honest. We all go through negative experience, but share the learnings as well. And what have you taken to be a better employee, a better person?
Cool. Gentlemen, we are nearly out of time, so I want to be responsive to some of the questions we've received here. We have one from Caroline. Hi, Caroline. Good to see you. Good to have you back online. The question is, what advice do you have for candidates to deal with rejection after companies have done their interviews? 1 minute, gentlemen.
I think a rejection is not necessarily a rejection of your capabilities and your skills, and there's a positiveness to that. Right. In the sense that sometimes you'll find that, yes, there was 2 or 3 great candidates in the final round and you unfortunately didn't get it. I think it's one of those things where every time you get rejected for a specific role, you've learned something in that interview. You've learned something that you also, after the interview, you're like, I wish I could have actually said that. So I think take it as that. Take it as a rejection from the previous interview has prepared you for the next one. And it's getting you ready for the next one. So it's more like practice. You practice long enough, you can rock this after that. Don't take it as, that company hates me or those guys hated me. It's a lesson for you, and run with that and be able to embrace the fact that you did the best at that time. Unfortunately, somebody else might have taken the role.
Superb. Leon, I'm going to throw one at you that's a little bit different. So I hope you're ready for it. So here it is. The number one asked question, the opening question. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How should people respond to that one? Not in this case where he said, I'd rather not tell you because I really need this job. So
that, honest at the highest level. So that's actually something that you can expect on a lot of interviews, and is a part of the interview that you can, really prepare and nail. So if you face challenges during an interview, one of them should not be to talk about yourself and give your elevator pitch. Okay, so obviously when you're talking about yourself, focus on the professional, you as a professional as much as you can, and just tell a little bit of your story and how you ended up being in that role. So for me, for example, it will be anything from Going a little bit personal, I moved to Ireland 10 years ago, worked in the service industry until I found out what I wanted to do, decided that HR was it, took different courses to understand what the world of HR is like, had an opportunity of a HR department in a company that I would use to work in a restaurant, and did this, and that. So it's a brief talk about your overall professional story, because again, you're better off letting the person that is interviewing you ask the questions to the answer that they want to hear, rather than throwing everything out there. And, I've been to cases where I sat in interviews where candidates were talking about themselves and they went to a rant of 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. So let the recruiter, let the interviewer lead the interview with questions and answer those, instead of giving everything that you need, that you think you need to give them.
I like it. Tshidi, I've got a question for you before we get towards the end. So when it comes to productivity, it's one of the hardest questions to answer when you're talking to recruiters or speaking to professionals like yourself. Like I said, a little bit of humor, no harm in that, but I do have a serious question for you. The question is, would you recommend job shadowing for graduates, and could it play an advantage when applying for jobs? Secondly, what's the best way to seek job shadowing opportunities, and what are the relevant points to consider? 1 minute. Take it away.
Tlamelo, it's fantastic to job shadow if you can. It will be the best tool ever, because imagine if you have job shadowed and you go for an interview and you speak about what you've learned in the job shadowing. Like, you are a rock star in that instance. So yes, if you can, please job shadow. And the easiest way to job shadow is, guys, connect with people that are doing the job that you want to end up being in on LinkedIn. Connect with them. And the nice thing about LinkedIn is when you click on connect, you can actually edit the message that you actually want the person to read when they receive your invite. You can change it to say, hi, I'm currently studying this, or I'm currently doing this, and I'd like, whether it's once a week, to come and see what you guys do and how you do it. It is the best thing you can ever do for yourself. So if you can job shadow, please try and do that. It's just right now it's very difficult, because obviously you can't job shadow when we're all stuck in our houses. But if you can, and when the time comes and the world changes a bit, as a graduate, please go ahead and job shadow. That'll be fantastic.
Superb. I think we've got Wanjira watching out of Kenya. She loves our comic strips. But with all seriousness, guys, when it comes to one of the toughest things in terms of getting a job is, of course, negotiating a great package. Do you, as recruiters, expect us to negotiate? How much room do you have to negotiate? And should I rather be talking to the hiring manager instead of speaking to you as a recruiter? Your 1 minute, gentlemen.
Okay, Leon, you want to take this? I can quickly jump into it.
So first thing that I would recommend is do your research. There are different tools out there that will give you, and different reports that will give you an indication what the market's paying for that role. Second, also, you have to have in your mind, what are you willing to take to do that job within the company, and bring that as well to the negotiation. Third one, ask the recruiter. They might be able to share, what range are you working with, what's the salary pay, and if they are able to, they will discuss that with you to set the expectations right from the start. So that should equip you much better when you are having the conversation, because you know what the market's paying, what you are willing as a professional to take to be in that role, and it would be even better if the recruiter is able to share that information with you.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Tshidi, give me a 1 minute, my brother.
Cool. My 1 minute is recruiters, to be honest, we suckers for wanting the best out of candidates. And I know a lot of you guys sometimes don't believe that, because, we've had a bad name in the past, but recruiters fight for you. In most cases, you'll find that they negotiate on your behalf about certain things. So you'll find that majority of the companies out there have got benchmarks that they use. recruiters will use that to go and negotiate with those benchmarks to the line manager. Speaking to your hiring manager could sometimes it could be good, and it could also backfire, because in some cases, if you haven't polished your language yet and you don't know some of the questions, because some of the things you're going to say to the line manager to say, listen, I'm not happy with this number, or I'm not happy with the salary. And then the line manager says, with what data? And you come back with different data, and the line manager comes with that data and says, but this is the two different data that we're all playing around with. I trust mine, you trust yours. Unfortunately, this is all I can offer. That is why sometimes it's okay to leave it to the recruiter to fight. In agencies, you'll find that recruiters for agencies, the higher they fight for you, the more it helps them when it comes to that commission as well. So not all recruiters are out to get you guys. Like a lot of them, we want you to get the best, because we also want somebody to fight for us when we actually look for jobs somewhere else. So it's okay to let the recruiter, if you're unhappy, the one thing that I think you should do sometimes is when you present it with an offer and you're unhappy with the number, just have a conversation with the recruiter and say, listen, I'm not happy with this number because of these reasons. Right. It's a very painless exercise. Right. But some people then ghost you. They disappear and you're like, how? Like, what's happening? You know? So it's okay. Just say to them, listen, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm not happy because you're asking me to now move to another city and this and that. If I look at my cost and my expenses, I'm going to end up taking far less than what I'm earning now at the moment. So I'm not happy. If you can manage to negotiate, go negotiate, but this is it. And then you just let it go. And then the recruiter will do the rest.
It's okay to say no. It's okay to turn down the offer. Communicate, be transparent, because it's a small world. You will meet the same people. And with that in mind, again, I think about you as a candidate. How are you best showing your best self, and the simple things that you can do around that? So for example, when you have been invited for an interview, or when you've had the opportunity to do a pre-qualification assessment, etc., how are you showing respect, showing manners, showing your best self to that recruiter or the hiring manager? So the way we communicate with them after the event matters as much as before the event. So sending a small thank you note will take you streets ahead compared to other candidates. We said at the beginning of this session, on any given job, there is 250 qualified professionals like yourself. This session has been about helping you stand out. The manners that we have, the behaviors that we exhibit, the credibility that we bring by demonstrating the work that we have done. How do we harness and bring that all together and connect with human beings, connecting with hiring managers, connecting with the recruiters, being mindful about when we're reaching out to them, what it is we're asking, what it is we're negotiating for. I hope in this session you've learned a lot. I've had these subject matter experts available for you so that you can learn. This is the first of many sessions we plan on holding in the future. As I said, there is some free LinkedIn learning resources that we are going to be making available in the place where you found the invitation for this session. You can also find some of these tips off my personal profile. And as I said, excuse me, it's Monday. As I said right up front, my name is Stewart Samkange. You can find me on LinkedIn. My details are there, my profile's there. This is my full name in case you want to get a hold of me. My guest that I've had today, Tshidi, all the way from South Africa, who has represented so well and given us his insights.
Yeah, guys. Oh, Stewart, are you still there?
There you are. We're back. Tshidi, thank you very much. There you are. Sorry, I lost you there for a second. Thank you very much. I'm putting up the tags and the various handles where people can reach out to you, learn more from you, and engage with you as a person. So as you see here, as we said earlier on, it's not just LinkedIn we're on as a platform. Connect with these professionals on YouTube, Twitter, because they're sharing some of the things that we were not able to cover in this session in this time because of its limitations. And then, of course, Leon, Thank you very much. A bit of a surprise guest for all of us. Thank you very much. Leon's tags are there. As I said, the man understands his media. So whether it's music, digital, sound, everything, pictures, this is the man who gave us our It's Time to Shine tune, which we will play out with after I hear parting words from these two gentlemen. But I just really wanted to also thank all the various participants who were watching online and asking us questions. Thank you very much. I will put your names up if you've got any last minute messages you want to give to our two speakers. And as I said, show them some digital love. If you're watching on a phone, that's it. Hit the hashtags, hit the love signs, hit the reactions, show them some love. They've spent time helping you, talking about some of their best practices, talking about their experiences. I hope you take this forward and help somebody else. So, gentlemen, as I wind up this It's Time to Shine show, I'm going to start with you, Leon, and then our guest will be last. So, Leon, parting shot, parting message. What would you say to those who have stayed with us for the 1 hour, 45 minutes?
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. I hope I'm able to do that more than once. Please connect with me, take that opportunity, and broaden your network, and keep trying, keep going. You will get there for sure.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Leon. And then I'm going to go, of course, to our special guest all the way from South Africa. My brother representing. Let me make sure I got the right title for you. I still got Leon's handles there. Yeah. Tshidi, tell us, my brother, what's your parting shot there?
Thank you, guys. Most of you guys will know me with my top of the morning little tidbits that I share online. I've since also opened a YouTube page. It's Tshidi's Top of the Morning. Search for it. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. Subscribe to my page. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to be sharing. There's a lot of stuff that we'll be talking to you guys about. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Stewart, for this. I love this. And I hope that we can have this, whether it's once a month or once every month and a half, or I'm just saying, because it was fun. It was fun. So we can still have a few more of these. It'll be fantastic before the end of this year, man. Let's
at least before the end of this year, let us help people find jobs. Guys, Definitely. If you have, thank you very much, Tshidi. Guys, if you have been watching, it's been a pleasure. I know it was an hour 45. We did that so that we can get this recording, and then we'll break it up on YouTube into small segments that you can consume. It's been about you. It will always be about you. You're a story. You're a brand. You have experience. You have God-given talent. You have passion, and you have purpose. Yes. It's just that the rest of the world doesn't know. And that's what we've been trying to help you do, is tell your story. Tell your story to the world by demonstrating some of the proof points around the skills you profess to have. By having your first degree connections endorse you. By having recommendations coming from leaders. By you writing brilliant articles that help show your passion for what it is you do. By you investing in yourself, continuously learning. And as you learn, you share those learnings with your community. Africa, we can only progress if we work together. We can only progress if we own our story. It's time to shine. It's time to shine as a student. It's time to shine as a professional. It's time to shine as an alumni. It's time to shine as someone transitioning into a new career. And for you, as a recruiter, as a hiring manager, we thank you for what you're doing in terms of giving people jobs. It's time for you to shine as well. It's time for you to shine and show your culture, your values, your brand, and what it is you offer as development opportunities. But you can only do that when you best understand the candidates, their motivation, what drives them. So take the time to understand your audience, to understand the nuances of what's changing with work, to see how you can remain relevant, to see how you can remain a strategic advisor to the business. Your world of work is changing as well. Make sure that you're not impacted by the automation of this technology. Make sure that you lead as a human being first. It's also time to shine as companies. This is the time where we show how we treat our employees, how we treat our stakeholders, how we treat our partners, how we treat our customers. It's time to shine. And lastly, as always, it's time to shine as Africa, a continent blessed with rich resources, a continent blessed with young people who have talent, a continent blessed with young people who are passionate, a continent blessed with winners. You're a winner. You're going places, and we're going places together. Thank you very much for your time on the session today. As I play out our It's Time to Shine stream, show us digital love online, and get away from my two special guests as we say goodbye. Thank you very much for watching and for giving us your attention. Bye, folks. Have a good day. God bless. Stay safe. It's time to shine.
Cheers.
See ya.
Superb. We'll close out this stream. It's been a fantastic one. Thank you, Leon, for joining us.
No worries. Good
All
stuff.
right.
I love it.